It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports,
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at Ulike, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ulike.com. Ulike. With Ease US, make studio-quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high-quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional-grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Just use AMP-Pace.
AMP-Pace.
It is the Pete Sousa Show. It is Friday. It's Good Friday. So thinking about everybody getting ready to celebrate Easter and everyone that's taking some time on Good Friday. You always have to be careful. I remember we would say, like, Happy Memorial Day. You know, like sometimes on the news, and they'd be like, you can't say Happy Memorial Day. I'd be like, well, I'm sorry. So just celebrating however you can. You know, we wish you well in that mission. As we join you in that. Slovacics, thank you very much for making the Pete Sousa Show possible every day. Also thank Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, Crawford Austin Properties. D1, I had a visit yesterday with Kevin from D1. I got to talk to Corey about that. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with our sponsorship with D1 going forward. But for right now, It's D1. We train different. And we can't forget about Socorro Family Ford, my good friends, just up the road in West. You can go to Slovacic, get a kolache, stop by Socorro Family Ford, peruse, think about getting a car, and then drive to Dallas. Do what you got to do, or come to Waco, or head to Austin. Very convenient for all that kind of stuff. A lot to get to today. Scotty and I are going to talk a little bit off the top about Rob Wright. And, this saga continues, and it's not like we're drumming up. We don't have to look far for content. I mean, if you would all follow college basketball, the Big 12, of course, Baylor, BYU, if you're scrolling through your Twitter feed, you saw yesterday the reaction. First you saw what Rob Wright, finally, it was officially released, I guess, earlier this week, a few days ago, that he was going to go to BYU. Then we actually heard from Rob for the first time. He left me out in the cold with my interview request. So we heard from Rob for the first time about exactly why he left Baylor. The reasons behind it. We got reaction from Fran Fraschilla, friend of the show, mentor of mine in some respects. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to get to what Rob said first, which could be perceived as a slap in the face to Baylor, just totally being transparent. Not that Rob meant it that way, but it could be perceived that way. So it starts with saying, everybody, of course, and there's a negativity to social media and to reaction, especially here in Central Texas. There's a hurt around the fact that a guy who was instrumental to your success last year, your success was a little above average at best, right? Certainly not to the standard that Baylor has created over the past several years. But Rob said, hey, as far as financial agreements were concerned and NIL money, that was down the list of reasons why I left Baylor to go to BYU. And he talked about what I have talked about, and I've talked about this because of my experience calling Big 12 games, being around the conference, hosting Inside the 12 with King McClure, and talking to just a lot of people throughout the landscape of college basketball. I'm blessed with the opportunities to call these games, and with that comes access to coaches and other analysts, and it's really something I treasure because I do become party to a lot of information, and a lot of the positive information around BYU stems from their hire of Kevin Young. And it's almost become a copycat situation, is right down the road in Salt Lake, Alex Jensen is hired, right, to coach the Utes. There was a time this year where the Utes were actually heating up and playing well. They had beaten BYU at home, and they kind of got on a roll. This was a little later in the season. And the first time they stumbled, coach is fired, let's bring in Alex Jensen, right? Like, because, and there's truth to some of this, they saw what was going on in Provo and the success that Kevin Young was having, not just on the court, but with his recruiting. Igor Demin, AJ DeBonsta, and now Rob Wright III coming over in the portal. But Rob said it was because of Kevin Young's professional basketball player development, right? And Kevin Young, the top assistant, some said in the NBA for a handful of years, an assistant for a long time, but had really ascended up the ranks, being considered one of the best assistants in the NBA, is hired by BYU. And the reason he was hired was because, there's a lot of reasons, but you know that a guy like Kevin Young bringing that NBA pedigree and that player development pedigree is going to be extremely attractive. Well, that's exactly what Rob said. I'm going to read you the quotes. And he says, look, NIL, this is Rob's quote, "It's cool the players get paid now, but that didn't really factor into too much into my decision. It was really for my growth and my development as a player. I kind of just thought coming to BYU and being around guys who have seen the NBA at the highest level and just what they are building and everything, I just didn't want to pass that up. It really didn't have too much to do with NIL." You know, you can't say that that's untrue because Igor Demin is going to be a lottery pick. A.J. DeMonsta is a 5-star guy. Rob is a 5-star guy. Kevin Young with his NBA ties and his NBA pedigree and his ability to develop players. Again, something I heard former players talk to me about this year, current players talk to me about this year, and coaches. Everyone is very excited about Kevin Young's ability to develop young talent. But hold on. Now, in Central Texas or all over the country where Baylor alum may find themselves, you hear that and you think, whoa, wait a minute. Tunde Yesufu, after this year, is more than likely going to be a first-round pick. That will be the 7th straight year Baylor has a first-round pick. BYU hasn't had a guy drafted since Jimmer Fredette. Now, that's going to change this year with Igor Demin. And I think when so two things can be true at once. Like, Rob can want to get more player development, right? But Baylor has done a wonderful job with NBA player development. Scotty, I bring you in. What do you make of those comments as someone who has followed the Big 12 for a long time? Obviously, you got Baylor in your DNA.
I'm gonna get up and fix my camera and come back because that is way too
I
much.
like it like that. I think you look handsome, Scotty, but okay. But then Fran Fraschilla weighs in, but we'll let Scotty weigh in first. So what? And let me read this one, okay?
Yep.
This is one quote which specifically kind of gets into Baylor. Yeah, this is Rob's quote. By the way, on the record, I am like a big fan of Rob. It goes back to our Philadelphia Catholic League roots. We both played in the Philly Catholic League. Rob, somewhat after my time. Here's the quote. Yeah, my year in Baylor, it was good. There were a lot of ups and downs just on the basketball side. But overall, I had a lot of fun at Baylor, he said. I appreciate their fan base and everything like that, but I just felt like I was ready for something different and things like that. So it was nothing personal at all. But that first sentence is a little, yeah, my year at Baylor, it was good. And then he says, there were a lot of ups and downs just on the basketball side. And we had heard rumblings this year that, and I think that's what you get all over the country. This is not unique to Baylor because that's a pretty healthy program as far as the mentality goes, and it starts with Scott Drew. But there was a lot of stuff that we heard, guys not playing that maybe could have played, a little bit of frustration around NIL stuff. And Rob was caught up. He was clearly a guy that just wanted to play basketball.
Yeah.
And we saw that. It played out on the floor. He was terrific for Baylor, 11 points, 4 assists a game, all Big 12 honorable mention, of course, all freshman team. And he was like Cool Hand Luke out there when he was in control. The lights are not too bright for this dude. But I digress. What do you got?
I want to address real quick. Bear the Truth mentioned we should move on from the Rob Wright convo. And I just want to say we're not digging for content.
No.
You pointed out as you walked in today, this was a national headline yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
What Rob said. So we've talked about it. We're going to continue talking about it. I would prefer to move on.
Yeah.
Let me just start by saying I said in.
And by the way, Mosley had me on his show yesterday just to talk about this after this stuff happened, after the reaction, and I was like, why am I talking about this on Mosley's show? This is for my show. But go ahead.
So we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Listen, I said in December, before he really even peaked at Baylor, Rob was one of my 4 favorite point guards to ever play at Baylor. I love his game.
Yeah.
If he had solely said, I really expected to compete for a national championship at Baylor, and last season was rough, I think every single one of us would go, fair.
Yeah.
Even though Drew was preparing to build a new team around you, even though you were very beloved on campus and around Waco, and I hope had a good experience off the court, if it was just basketball reasons from this past season, I think all of us would go, yep, cool.
Yeah.
The NBA development comment is the most asinine, unfounded, out of whack, pulled out your butt thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And I am prone to hyperbole, but you mentioned a few of the stats. Here's a few more. Baylor has had 5 players drafted in the first round over the last 4 years. This year, VJ will make that 6 players in 5 years. The next year, Tunde will almost certainly make it 7 players in 6 years. Yeah. So do not talk about recent, success with Scott Drew getting induced to the NBA. Do not talk about player development when I've sound like a broken record on the Pete Sousa show saying Pierre Jackson came to Baylor as a JUCO guy, left as an NBA basketball player. Corey Jefferson and Taurean Prince came in as 2-star recruits, left Baylor as NBA players. Taurean Prince is still in the league.
Yeah.
Like, that is Scott Drew's development. Baylor has 11 active NBA players as of this season.
Really?
11.
Wow.
Baylor.
I would like, by the way,
has 11.
By the way.
BYU, I just have to finish that thought. BYU has
0. Well, and I would love to, and you can't say it's two totally different bites out of the apple because Baylor has the same coach. Scott Drew coached all 11 of those guys.
That's
so
true.
But it's not like Scott Drew moved on and there's a new coach at Baylor. So it would make sense if Rob said that because then we would be talking about the program from a holistic viewpoint.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it would be okay if we're getting down to it. It's different coaches, staff. Like that history is gone. With BYU, I'll say you can't really say that BYU has 0 guys in the NBA. And the reason I say that is because that whole era of BYU basketball is gone. They've turned the page to a brand new coach who's doing things differently this year. So
totally. I feel that. Yeah.
But bring up the Frasilla quote. I thought this was super interesting.
Totally.
Fran tweeted this yesterday, and you could tell it was a little passive aggressive. Read that because I can't see it.
Jay Drew was tweeting the Rob Wright quotes. Rob says, I kind of just thought coming to BYU and being around guys who have seen the NBA at the highest level and what they are building and everything, it's just I didn't want to pass that up. It didn't have too much to do with NIL. To which Fran Fraschilla responds, I love Rob Wright. I love BYU. I love Coach Drew. I love everyone. I think Baylor men's basketball will have 7 straight years of first-round picks. So he's not just projecting next season. He's actually projecting one more as well. At least Rob didn't say he wanted to get closer to home, winky face, which is that's very sassy coming from one very classy Fran Fraschilla.
Yeah, and I think that was the big story yesterday. And then you saw A.J. DeBonsta came out and he had a quote that we got a certified bucket getter. And I don't think you can really – the excitement in Provo should be at a very high level.
Very high.
And for a very good reason. All the pieces are there for them to explode next year.
Absolutely.
We're still waiting. I don't know if Richie Saunders is coming back.
He said he is.
He said he is.
He said, I think early this week or late last week, he said he is. Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, that roster's going to be stacked. I've got another thought on the NBA thing and one thought about that, and then we can do it.
I would like to see we got to figure out where Baylor is in the pecking order of NBA active players. I'd be very interested to see who has more than 11.
I can check when I'm off screen.
Yeah,
because that's a great question. Not BYU.
Yeah.
My thought on that, too, with the NBA thing, right? I think it would be one thing if you said, well, those are all the players that played on the national championship team, but it's 2 or 3 of those guys, Flagler, Butler, and Mitchell. I think it would be one thing if you said, oh, that's all one-and-dones who were guaranteed NBA stars.
Yeah.
But that's like 3 or 4 of them. Then you've got Taurean Prince and Royce O'Neal, who were at Baylor way before the national title.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a guy like Yves Missi, who came in totally under the radar. I think he was a 4-star recruit, but totally not. Everyone was like, he's not NBA ready. He's so raw. And in one season, Scott Drew had him a first-round pick, and he's going to be an all. I think have they announced the all-rookie teams yet?
I don't know, but
I don't think they have. He's going to be on the all-rookie team.
When I talked to my buddies last week, the guys I went to dinner with the Raptors when they were in town, they love Jacoby. Like Jacoby Walter, they say he's gotten better and better and better.
Yeah. Dude, the Heat traded for Davion Mitchell, and the other, I don't remember if it was last night or 2 nights ago when they beat the Bulls. He was the catalyst.
Yeah.
He was 5 for 5 from the floor with 9 assists, 2 steals, no turnovers, locking down their best player the whole game.
Scotty, walking box score. I love it.
Bro, listen.
I love a walking box score.
Ray J. Dennis, as recently as last season, came to Baylor as a guy, he's not an NBA player. He's just a solid college player. He's in the NBA.
Yeah.
Point guard. That's where, you want the one-to-one comparison. Undersized point guard that Rob Wright, you could have been this and probably, let's just be honest, you probably got more tools at 18 than Ray J. Dennis did.
Mm-hmm.
Ray J. Dennis is playing for the Pacers. What are we talking about? So it makes me mad. why I'm excited about all of this banter is when Baylor and BYU play next season, it's going to be
Question for you.
electric.
You know this family of Baylor basketball fans better than I do. What kind of reception will he get? Will it be like a freezing cold reception? Will it be chilly? Will it be warm?
I think this is actually really easy to predict because I saw it when Houston was in town. LJ Cryer was booed every time he touched the ball, and he left 3 years ago. And frankly, left, and most of us were like, oh, yeah, he was our fifth guard. Bye.
Yeah.
You know, turned into an excellent player, but he was booed every time he touched the basketball a month and a half ago. And he played great. But this is way more contentious.
Yeah.
You know, again, some of his words yesterday, like, are throwing some water or throwing some coals at Baylor. Like, hey, let me kind of kick you on my way out the door. He is going to get harassed, I think, like no one else has been harassed at Foster Pavilion. And it looks like Brad the Truth agrees with me. The largest boo fest ever. And then just to double down, all caps, ever. So I agree. I think it's going to be. And I think that's fun, by the way. Like that's the element of college sports that like we've lost some with regional rivalries and other changes. Dude, Baylor and BYU both being religious schools, there's already a little bit of a natural rivalry there. Yeah. But yeah, now your star point guard from last season is their star point guard. BYU is gonna be picked probably to like finish top 3 in the conference. Baylor's going to be kind of the underdog, but I think, as I said earlier this week, I think Baylor's putting together the roster to be right there with everybody. Oh, especially if it's a competitive. Oh my gosh, dude!
You should have seen it this year. I actually was calling that game when Caleb Lohner came back with Utah. He got booed. No, he didn't. Nobody really cared about that.
Well, yeah, he was a backup post player. He went to play football. Like,
yeah, and by the way, I think he's geared up for the draft. It'll be interesting to see if he gets a sniff on draft day. We should ask McShay about him. One more thing before we head to break here. I did a baseball game last night with Pat Combs. It was Baylor and Utah. And I was so excited for this big game. We had this kid McAnally was pitching for Utah. He's an ace. He's going to be a Major League Baseball player. And baseball, man, those games, I know this. I call a lot of baseball. Those games are so long. It's 3 hours. Like, you call softball, you call college basketball, you're in and out in 2 hours. Or 3 hours. And it's not about the time of work. I mean, I'm grind city over here. But just a baseball game when you're on the air for 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours. And last night the final score was 13-1. Utah victorious. Let me tell you, any young broadcaster out there, you want to find your bones, to do some baseball. Because it really, you run the gamut with, the first couple innings, it's like, so it's exciting. The game was close. A couple huge hits for Utah, a bunch of extra base hits. In fact, they get up 2-1. Baylor scores on a wild pitch, but the game was relatively clean from a defensive standpoint. But then Ethan Calder, Baylor starting pitcher, gets rung up in the fifth inning, gives up 5 runs. The next inning, reliever Davenport gives up 3 more. It was just, and then you're dipping into the stories, which is fun. I mean, I got my Phillies shirt on here. Pat Combs was a pitcher for the Phillies, first-round draft pick out of Baylor. So Pat and I can get into some stories. But you really find yourself, you talk about this pitcher he's got 4 or 5 pitches, which is great, right? It means he's got a lot of range. Baseball will make you dig into your bag and use all your pitches. You come in, you're airtight, you got your delivery, you've got all this information you're working with, and then the game gets away from you. And then now it's not a comedy show, but it's more entertainment than anything else. By the way, one more thing before break. Our boy Drake Toll is the Stephen A. Smith of the Big 12. I mean, he was on. I listened to his show. I love Drake. I appreciate the lightning rod he is. He did a whole show. I'll say it. It's Locked On Big 12. It went up today, where he talks the whole show, at least the first 5 minutes. That's all I listened to because I was headed over here, about why you should listen to his show, why he does the show, why when you see a headline from Drake Toll that says Utah going to the Big Ten, done deal. Okay? If people see that, they're like, what the, and Drake explains how he is not a journalist. He is an entertainer. He is an entertainer. And those quotes that he shares, they come from sources. And they're not always, as he admits, necessarily great sources. And
that's the funny key difference between the two is Stephen A. Smith came up in journalism.
Yeah.
And has become an entertainer.
Well, so did Drake. Drake came, a little bit.
In a different world.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Drake doesn't have integrity or wasn't.
But he said to him, he said himself, I'm not a journalist, I'm
he
an entertainer.
He recognizes what he does now.
Yes, and he said, he had a great quote, and this is why I love the dude. He's like, I am not here to break news. I'm here to react to it with you.
Oh, that's
great.
And that's what Stephen A. Smith does on ESPN.
Yeah, that's what he's doing right now. We'll get into Stephen A. Smith. Also want to talk about the Mavs. Big game for Mavericks fans if there's any left. Right? I think we can count them all on one hand right now. But if you beat the Grizzlies tonight, you're in the playoffs. Some thoughts on what's going on with Nico Harrison, the press conference earlier this week, just how that was awful PR. I want to share some experiences that I was a part of coming up as a young guy working in NBA PR. I've got one situation that you could compare to that. It involves Michael Jordan, and it's a cool story. And we're also going to talk about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. And I have a really interesting question that I want to ask Scotty about Bill Belichick. It involves his girlfriend and a new quarterback. We'll be back after this. The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacics. Stick with us.
Dive into adventure with Scuba.com, your ultimate destination for top-tier scuba and snorkeling gear. With over 20 years of experience, our expert staff, who've dived everywhere from the Galapagos to the Maldives, provides personalized advice to help you find the perfect gear for any underwater journey. Shop leading brands like GoPro, Aqualung, and Scuba Pro. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, trust Scuba.com for the best in diving equipment and expert guidance. Explore now at Scuba.com. That's SCUBA.com. Scuba.com. At Fullwell, we bring together the expertise of registered dietitians, MDs, and OBGYNs to give you the best fertility support. Our research-backed bioavailable formulas are crafted with your health in mind, ensuring the highest quality and safety. From preconception to pregnancy and beyond, we exceed industry standards with independent testing for harmful contaminants. With our comprehensive practitioner directory, personalized care is always within reach. Fullwell, your trusted partner on your fertility journey. Visit us at fullwellfertility.com. Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. We put every machine through 6,000 rigorous tests to guarantee long-lasting performance. With cutting-edge technology and a commitment to energy efficiency, Gevi makes your life easier, greener, and more convenient. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at gevi.com to discover more. That's gevi.com.
With San, owning iconic furniture no longer requires paying a premium. We use the finest materials like Italian top-grain leather, known for its durability and luxurious feel, and apply meticulous attention to detail in every piece we create. Our replicas are crafted with the same care and precision as the originals, but a price that makes them accessible. With over 15,000 satisfied customers worldwide, we've proven that high-quality furniture doesn't have to come with a high price tag. Explore our collection today at san.com.
At Covers & All, we've revolutionized protective solutions with cutting-edge, customizable covers, tarps, and curtains. Using advanced tech fabrics that are 100% waterproof, UV tear, and abrasion-resistant, we ensure lasting durability with hand-sewn double-stitch seams. Our commitment to quality, precision engineering, and customizable options is unmatched. With vertically integrated operations and express shipping, we deliver premier protection at affordable prices. Visit coversandall.com today for the perfect fit, guaranteed to last.
At Open Goal USA, we're revolutionizing training for both soccer and lacrosse with our innovative portable rebounders. Perfect for players of all ages and skill levels, our rebounders improve accuracy, control, and technique in both sports. Built with premium materials for durability and ease of use, they're ideal for training anywhere, anytime. Whether you're perfecting your soccer game or sharpening your lacrosse skills, Open Goal USA has you covered. Visit OpenGoAAALUSA.com and elevate your training today.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious. Find your blend at hempdelicious.com.
Introducing Muck-Off's classic pink bike cleaner, powered by revolutionary nanotechnology that breaks down dirt and grime on a microscopic level while protecting your bike's delicate finish. Developed by our mad developer Alex and tested by riders, our products are made by riders for riders. Discover more at us.muc-off.com, where we break the mold to bring you the best in bike care.
Get paid faster with Bill, the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com.
All right, Pete Sousa Show. We are back. We're presented by Slovaceks. It is April. Spring ball across the country, wrapping up whatever version of that your college team or the college team near you or that you love is dealing with right now or going through right now. I want to talk about Bill Belichick, North Carolina, and his girlfriend. I can't resist. I've been trying to hold off, and it's just too juicy. And my question is, where is Scott? How about this?
Got him, folks.
Oh, how about that headline? So Bill Belichick, younger talent in his personal life and on the field. He just signed Gio Lopez, one of the more exciting quarterbacks in the portal. You would say a big get for any school, certainly for what Bill Belichick is trying to do at North Carolina. At the same time, if you saw the clip circulating from North Carolina's spring game, it's becoming increasingly clear that his significant other is going to be a big part of things for this football program. And my issue with it is that there's a lack of self-awareness on her part. That she's taking, look, it's hard for me to weigh in on this without sounding like a jerk either way. But I feel like, okay, let's say they're in love and it's an odd love story, right? Okay. That's all I have to say about that. And so now she is an ally of his, a confidant of his. Look, for me in my life, Christy is way more organized than I am. And she's really helped me get things in line organizationally. Just where I'm going to be on certain days and games I'm calling. She's got a job. Her job is not being my assistant, but she can help me kind of stay focused with a lot of stuff, right? Like we're dealing with this pre-Cana because we're going to get married at Villanova, a Catholic church. And, that's where I'm from. I know the folks at the Villanova church, and she was like, it was very clear that I needed to get on this yesterday. So I called the lady and got it done. But, I would even much rather she handles that stuff, and she would rather handle it. Okay, so that's but like Christy's like low key, and I ain't Bill Belichick. Nobody cares what I'm doing, and I'm certainly not representing the state of North Carolina's college football team, which is what Bill Belichick is doing on a huge stage this year. Right, all eyes are on Bill Belichick, and then you look at the spring game. And she's walking around. She's got this extremely, you would say, loud jacket on. It's very clear that she is like the maestro, right, of what's going on. I don't know exactly what she's controlling. I think she's like the COO of Belichick Productions, which, and I hate to pile on, that's not a real company. I read yesterday. And now she's sending emails to people, sort of crafting the image that Bill is going to have at North Carolina, also that his son will have at North Carolina. Those emails, by the way, are public record, which I didn't know, but I read. So, The Athletic got a hold of some of those emails and made it clear that this young woman who I'm not even going to say she's not qualified to do this. I really don't even know what she's doing, and she could be a rocket scientist for all I know. But there's nothing about this that's understated, and she's bringing a lot of heat on the two of them, which may not be a big deal, which might be one of those things like, Bill Belichick his whole life has been like filtering out the noise to make magic happen on the football field. You can go back to one of the most unpopular decisions in pro football history that worked out was when he decided to stick with Tom Brady when Drew Bledsoe came back and got healthy. When, man, I'm telling you, it seemed like 90% of America and 99% of New England and the surrounding areas felt like they should have gone back to Bledsoe, and now here we have it. So Bill Belichick doesn't care what you think or what I think, and that's become really clear with this whole situation. So my question, as they signed Gio Lopez out of the portal, Gio Lopez, I had watched him for a whole game this year because they played UNT, South Alabama did, and then I had UNT the next weekend. So I was watching that game so I could watch UNT, but it was undeniable that this explosive quarterback with a live arm was someone to watch, right, who was exciting to watch. But also, I don't want to say mistake-prone, but he certainly wasn't perfect. His quarterback rating on the season is 72.3, and he's a freshman or a sophomore. He started 1 year. He started 1 year of college football at South Alabama. You're playing ULM, right, Louisiana Monroe. You're playing Louisiana Lafayette. Texas State is probably your biggest opponent in conference, playing in the SoCon or the Sun Belt. And they played LSU, and he played okay, but they, of course, they got destroyed. And he had, I think, 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but he didn't like throw for a ton of yards. It was like 2,500. But again, the quarterback rating is 72. I have a question for you, Scotty. Who is going to give Bill Belichick more headaches this season? His young girlfriend or his young quarterback?
I love that question. I'm going to say the quarterback. I'm going to say that because I think Bill cares a lot more about football and winning football than anything else.
Excuse us.
As Siri yells from Pete's laptop to interrupt me.
Okay.
Clearly disagreeing. I have a question for you in response. I do think it's going to be the quarterback.
Okay.
Just to answer your question. I have a question to you. I agree. Generally speaking, there's a lot of maxims of wisdom in the world that say you shouldn't go home with the same person you work with. Right?
Yeah.
Just creates extra conflict, tension, reasons to fight, whatever. Right? But what I think we can be critical of what he's having her do for the football program, but it's not any different than Dion had his son doing when he got hired, doing all the social media stuff. It's not. I mean, I understand.
Okay.
I understand it's your son versus your girlfriend. That's a totally different relationship.
No, but you're bringing up a good point. I appreciate it.
But if you're just talking about, so I agree. If I were Bill Belichick's friend, I would say, dude, don't make her come work on the football program. Like,
or would you call him up if Bill Belichick is your best friend? Would you call him up because you need your guys in your camp to be truth tellers?
Yes.
Regardless if you're an NFL coach or if you're running a Walmart, it does not matter.
Yes.
Would you say, hey, it's a little much?
I would.
Like, yeah.
No. And your best point just a second ago is I think he is exposing her to more criticism and like this very public eye that she does not need to be part of. Like,
no,
because if they break up, like, is that her legacy forever? The only reason people know your name is because you were Bill Belichick's super young girlfriend. Like, that sucks, dude. So, like, I'm all for keeping her out of the public eye. I'm all for don't work with people you go home with.
Yeah.
But as far as if you're going to utilize her, having her manage his image, socials, connect with younger fans, I actually think that's pretty smart.
Wow. Okay.
And so from that perspective, as long as they're not getting into personal drama, which I don't
We've not seen any of it as
I don't
far
know
as we know.
I don't know a thing about their relationship.
Yeah,
obviously.
but it seems like it's going great. I think they were together before the public knew about it for a few years.
I think Belichick is way more inclined to get pissed off and impatient with a young quarterback who doesn't run the offense well than his very, very young, attractive girlfriend who's running the team's social media. I just think that like Bill's going to have much higher expectations for the quarterback.
I'll be interested to see if because that video, it went viral, and it's not necessarily fair. I mean, here I am, I should be better than even talking about this, but it's just irresistible. But I wonder if she'll tone it down a little, like for next year. Like, where will she be during the games? How will she be covered by the networks that are covering North Carolina games?
And here's where
will it be like, how many times are we going to see?
Yeah, well, so
Jordan, whatever her name is.
Here's fear is too strong a word. I have concerns for her well-being, mental health, and those things. I don't think it's going to be a big deal if Bill Belichick wins 8 games.
Yeah.
If he does better than that, great. But let's say North Carolina wins like 5 games next season. There's going to be a narrative. It's going to happen. There's going to be a narrative in the media of, did Bill Belichick give too much to this girl? Is she distracting him?
Yeah.
Has Bill Belichick lost the sauce because he's, too busy worrying about his girlfriend? She is going to become a lightning rod for criticism that's probably unwarranted if Carolina struggles. That's where I'm like, dude, we've seen way too many news stories. That girl that Pat McAfee talked about 2 months ago, right? I'm not even going to mention the story.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen way too many instances where young people, but young women in particular, get involved in sports or sports tangentially to sports. There's a story. It goes viral. There's lots of dude bros on Twitter that are just throwing grenades.
Yeah.
And their mental health just craters. And I don't want that for her. I don't want, obviously.
That is a great point. Like, and that's the thing. She's clearly taken a lot of control and appears to be the alpha in some rooms over there. And it's like, is he protecting her from herself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. But, maybe he's giving her a great opportunity.
And listen,
what the hell do I know?
And frankly,
I had to talk about it.
There's a part of me, and I'm psychoanalyzing, and maybe we're getting into dangerous waters and we should move on, but there's a part of me that would say Bill Belichick, if he is who we think he is, is probably, even if she's in her 20s, whatever, is probably not going to date a woman who can't stand up for herself. Who isn't a little prickly, strong, can kind of match his energy. Like, I don't see him dating someone who's like a pushover.
Yeah.
So let's give her credit. Maybe she is totally capable, and this is what she wants. And she's like, put me in the football program. Let me help. I want, maybe this is a career path for her, which is great.
Maybe she'll be the next Amy Trask.
That's best case scenario.
Yeah.
And I wish that for her.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is Carolina wins 4 games, and she becomes a story, and then all you're known as is Bill Belichick's girlfriend, and then Bill Belichick sucked at coaching afterward.
Yeah.
And that's a real possibility, and that's not good.
No, so that's why this situation is something that I couldn't stay away from. A lot of reasons, and my hope will be that she tones it down, still stays involved, does all the day-to-day stuff she's doing now, but just gets herself out of the crosshairs so dopes like me aren't talking about it. How about a dope that's a general manager for the Mavericks, Nico Harrison? We haven't gotten a chance to talk about this, but it's really it's a good time to talk about it because while we're, taking a huge dump on the Mavs all the time, everybody is, and it's warranted. The background or the context of this situation, as I see it, is the owners did not want to pay Luka all that money in the offseason. And so they put Nico Harrison in a super weird position. As I heard from people around the NBA recently, and we knew this, but I didn't know exactly how close. And I heard this from somebody in LA who's very close to like that whole deal, that Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison, like, think about you and your like best buddy. Like, that's how tight those two are. So like that deal getting done, I believe like the closeness of their relationship probably led to a bad deal getting done. Where what Nico Harrison did that is unforgivable is the trade just sucked. And, So the owner says, we're not going to pay this guy. I don't care if you guys figure out a way to make him look bad or whatever, because that was BS too. The way that they tried to paint Nico or Luka in a light like he was just, I don't know, like off the court, the drinking, the smoking, whatever. He wasn't taking care of his body. The guy drug you to the finals last year with Kyrie Irving. Like, let's not forget about that. Like the NBA finals, there were points in the finals too. I think a huge touchstone for this whole thing detonating was Brian Windhorst after that game saying, like, there's a reason that the winners are in that locker room and the losers are in that locker room, because Luka had been pleading for fouls, I think right around when he was fouling out. So there is there's a lot on the bone here, but bottom line is owners wanted him traded. Nico was put in a weird situation. He gets in bed with his buddy and makes a terrible deal where you don't even get a first-round pick. And you don't get anybody from the Lakers who's really effective. It just, you got AD, and AD is good. And we haven't had a chance to see him play much this year, if at all, for the Mavs. And Nico's quote, as we get to this press conference earlier this week, it was super weird because this is dangerous territory. When you start to select certain members of the media and you meet in like a cloistered environment, this happened when I worked for the Charlotte Bobcats at the time. The organization was actually headed in the right direction. Bob Johnson was the owner. Bernie Bickerstaff was doing a good job as general manager. Ed Tapscott was the president. Bernie was GM and obviously head coach. And it wasn't like they were setting the world on fire, but they were slowly building, doing exactly what they needed to do as far as putting together a situation where they would have a lot of cap space. Of course, they had high draft picks. And the team on the floor for an expansion team came out and played their asses off every night, right? You had a bunch of guys who were really, of course they wanted to win, but they were fighting for jobs in the NBA. Okay, well, that situation goes sideways because Bob Johnson realizes that owning an NBA team costs a lot of money. And the moment Michael Jordan appeals to him, both of the guys at the time, I think, lived in D.C. They had become friends just because, they were both terribly successful guys. Bob Johnson in business, Michael Jordan obviously in sports and business. They get together, and Michael Jordan becomes the majority owner for the Bobcats. And it's a huge story, especially in North Carolina, right, where Michael played college basketball, and the Bobcats were located in Charlotte. So Michael does not want to do any media at all. He's just like, and he's Michael Jordan, so it's like you really can't get the guy to do media. The new president of the team was going to be Fred Whitfield. Fred was Michael's best buddy. Fred was a great guy, but just look up Fred Whitfield and whether he was qualified for that job. That is a question that I think we can answer kind of quickly. So Michael finally says, I'm gonna do a media session, but it's going to be closed door, and I'm gonna select like a few members of the media. And so now he's got my boss at the time, this guy, Scott Lightman, Scott was way over his skis. I mean, over his skis. A young guy in the NBA. His approach, you could say, maybe was off a little bit. Great dude, but another guy that was in over his head, because now he's putting together a press conference for Michael Jordan, which Michael says, I'm not going to talk to the Associated Press in this press conference, because it was kind of like the Deion Sanders thing, because somebody for the Associated Press wrote a bad article about me, so now Mike Cranston, who's covering the Hornets or the Bobcats for the Associated Press, I don't want to talk to him. Well, Mike Cranston has nothing to do with that article that was written years ago or maybe 6 months before. And a lot of the media was left out of this private session with Michael Jordan where there were no cameras. I know that part. I think there were some tape recorders, but I'm not sure. And there were a lot of pissed off media members that they were not a part of that, right? Because you got like 4 guys who cover the team for the Charlotte Observer alone. So are you going to let all 4 of them in? Like, no, probably not. And then you have guys from, other newspapers. John DeLong, who has been on the Payoff with Pete, sober podcast. Check it out. JD is sober for like 20-some years, maybe 30-some years now. John DeLong is covering the team for the Winston-Salem Journal. He doesn't get invited, but Richard Walker does. for the Gastonia Gazette. You get it, right? So the Mavericks did the same exact thing. The Bobcats had a bad situation, and they made it a lot worse. And so now Michael Jordan comes into town, and half of the media feels like they've been spurned by him. And guess what? He doesn't care because he's not doing media again for another year and a half. I can remember Rachel Nichols coming to town to cover the draft for ESPN. She was supposed to be in the draft room with Michael Jordan. And like at the last minute, Michael was like, nah, I don't think I want her to come in. And I remember her clearly slamming down her clipboard in the hallway at the arena because he didn't care. He was larger than life. And I get it. Guys have done that forever. But Michael wasn't getting any help from a PR perspective. Neither is Nico Harrison. You have this press conference where you have, again, a selective group of the media. You don't allow cameras. They had to negotiate tape recorders to be brought into it. And during this availability, it's bad enough that you do it this way. And honestly, that kind of stuff, Mad Dog Russo said this. New York guy knows the media. He said a press conference like that works in a rinky-dink town. It doesn't work anywhere else. And Dallas is not a rinky-dink town. In fact, it's like the fifth largest media market in the country, which basically means in the world. So you have this situation where media members are feeling left out. You've got no cameras. And during the press conference where Nico still refuses to accept accountability, and he can't throw the owners under the bus because the owners are the one that asked him to hold the press conference. And so now he's got to sit there and say stupid shit like, you guys saw what we could have been for 2.5 quarters. Did you hear that?
It's so dumb.
Like 2.5 quarters? What?
Yay.
Like what? Like, so, no, you can't base anything on 2.5 quarters.
Glad our season rides on 2.5 quarters.
I mean, that is like.
And if you would, the only thing stupider would have been if you followed that up with, who could have known Anthony Davis was going to get hurt? It's like, everybody who's ever watched Anthony Davis play basketball.
It's like, what? Yeah, I mean, so it's, and now, Kyrie gets hurt. And this goes back to the way that this was handled so atrociously by the Mavs and their PR team. Kyrie gets hurt. Obviously, AD is hurt. And normally in a situation like this, when your number one point guard, who, by the way, has earned credibility with your fan base because of how well he's played since he's been in Dallas and how hard he's played. And I just think Kyrie has done this turn where I just love the guy, a couple years ago, we were calling him a greedy flat earther. Now it's a little
Brooklyn
different.
Kyrie and Dallas Kyrie have been very different.
Yeah. Kyrie has become one of those guys he's just fun to root for, and he's eccentric. He's a veteran. He's become a leader, and when he's on the floor, that goddamn basketball is a yo-yo. He is so fun to watch play. He really is. So when you get a guy like Kyrie that gets hurt, like pretty much the best player on your team, especially now that Luka's gone, you usually get like some grace from your fan base, from the media. The Mavs got none this year because of how poorly they handled the Luka trade, and because, honestly, if you want to blame Nico for one thing, blame him for getting completely bamboozled in this trade. I get that you had to make a trade. The trade sucked.
Can I?
The trade sucked. So that's the problem here. So
yeah, you got no first-round pick.
No,
for the best player in the NBA.
So you got to accountability is one of the biggest things in life. I can say it as a living, breathing example because I screwed up so bad in life, with drugs and alcohol that I had to get sober and be accountable to all this shit that I was embarrassed and disgraced that I did. I had to go around to people and make amends. Try on that. That sucks. But at the end of the day, it's actually fulfilling and it works great. But you got to be working a whole program and stuff for a later date. Listen to the podcast, The Payoff with Pete. I'm rambling. Scotty, over to you.
And I appreciate your passion.
Yeah, I get pissed when I.
Well, and here's
the thing. The trade sucked.
Let's call him to some accountability because I told you I wanted to bring this up, and I think it's another just example of how tone deaf and avoiding accountability Nico Harrison is. First of all, the fact that he had this press conference with no cameras. Initially, it said no microphones, but what I've heard is that he actually conceded.
They negotiated it.
Yeah, but the fact you have to negotiate microphones at a press conference, grow a pair, bro. But here's what he had an exchange with Tim McMahon, who is probably the most well-respected sports reporter in Dallas working right now.
Yeah.
He's in the game. He's a Mavs insider.
He's
He's brilliant. I mean, we talk about journalism dying, not with Tim McMahon.
You know, Matt Mosley would say he was a mentee of mine.
You know, Stephen A. Smith respects Tim McMahon in
I
Dallas.
love Tim McMahon.
He's a personal friend of mine.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's long, but I think it's important.
Please.
Here's the exchange between best sports reporter in Dallas, Tim McMahon, doing his job, and Nico Harrison. I think it's crazy. Tim McMahon, in your own words, you created a 3 to 4 year time frame in building a finals team, a team that went to the finals last season. You gave up your first round capital of it 27 years, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So 3 to 4 years from now ends, you're out of first round draft capital. How is that a logical decision? Explain the logic of that for the long-term interest of this franchise. Totally inbounds, right?
Yeah.
Here's what Nico Harrison said. Can you repeat that? He didn't understand, right? He goes, so Tim McMahon says again, okay, 27 to 30, you're out of first-round capital. In your own words, you created a 3 to 4 year time frame. When the credit card bill comes due, that time frame is over. How is that in the best interest of long-term interest of your franchise? And again, 27 to 30, you're out of your capital. You build a finals team doing it, and you traded the guy who led that finals team last season. How is that in the long-term interest when he's, at the time, a 25-year-old generational talent who could have a 10 to 12-year runway? He's one of the best players we've seen. Nico Harrison. I keep saying the same thing. Defense wins championships. I believe we have a championship caliber team, not for now, but the future. Obviously, the future will hold if I'm right or wrong, and ultimately we're going to be held to the standard of wins and losses, and every executive in every field is going to be held to that same standard. Tim McMahon repeats the question because he didn't answer. Your long-term best interest, though.
It's like, dude, are you in a different room?
Yeah. Your long-term best interest, though, 25, 26, 27, there's your 3 years. Then you're out of your first-round capital. How does that make sense for the franchise? Like I said, we believe in the move we made. You obviously don't, and that's fine. You're entitled to your opinions, but we're excited about the future of our team. Last slide. Tim, it's not what I believe. I'm asking for your logic. Nico, again, I think the future will hold. I think once we win, that will change your mind. Tim McMahon, and you don't believe that the team who went to the finals last year with Luka as a centerpiece could continue to contend for championships. Nico, I'll say it again. Defense wins championships.
What in the what? I mean, that is abhorrent.
You're talking about needing to take accountability. Tim's asking him about first-round draft picks. Tim's asking him about draft capital. Tim's asking about Luka, and all he says is just repeating the same tired, well, we'll be judged by if we win. I think we're going to win. Defense. And it's like, brother.
And you know, it goes back to, and I understand, right, that is like GM speak, but you didn't get hoodwinked in a trade where you sent a mid-leveling guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this affects the entire city and the entire city's spirit, right? And literally, like, the city of Dallas felt really good about itself and the surrounding areas in the Metroplex and all the way down to here in Central Texas. Like, people got on board, rooted for the Mavs. They felt great. It was fulfilling. The sociological experiment that is sports was, again, a success, right? And now they feel like shit because of this trade. I mean, and you know, Nico Harrison's not responsible for, like, how, you know, we go home and look in the mirror and decide who we are as men and women. But at the same time, again, it goes back to my man Murph's quote. These teams are public trusts. They basically are. Like, you have to do right by your city, and he did not do right by his city. And that's unfortunate. And the last thing I want to get in here, just to, you know, there's a dark side to this, and I'm not conspiracy Pete, like trying to put together all kinds of dark clouds. But, you know, he was he was Kobe's shoe guy, right? With Nike, Nico was. And, you know, for all I know, he's a shrewd basketball guy. But, like, Rob Pelinka was Kobe's agent. Like, I'm not even sure. Like, there's a world in which, like, Rob already had a previous relationship with Nico, so he got Nico to be the point guy on the shoe deal. Like, these guys are thick as thieves. And right here it appears that's exactly what they are. Like, their personal relationship could possibly, I mean, it begs the question, like, does this need an investigation by the NBA? Like, is there more to this? Like, if Nico gets fired next year and the Lakers win a championship, I'm telling you, it's like Sanford and Son heart attack time, because it's possible, like, he would end up working for the Lakers. Like, could you imagine, right? Like, but that is, like, on the table. This whole situation could be even way worse than it seems now. Again, I'm not saying, like, Nico's got horns coming out of his head, like this was, like, some dark plan. But, like, it is, like, scary how those close are and how big this deal is and how bad it has gone. That is the NBA should get involved on some level here at some point in time.
Listen, it's clear at best Nico Harrison is the most naive, out-of-touch general manager ever. At best. Naive.
Yeah.
We can just trade Luka. We'll win. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's naive.
Yeah.
At worst.
And naive to not understand the reaction
at worst,
that will come with it.
At worst, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's collusion.
Yeah.
I wanted to read one more quote, much shorter. You mentioned that you have to running a professional sports franchise is about the what'd you say, the trust of the fans?
Yeah, it's like a public trust.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, you know, yeah.
3 days ago, this quote from Nico also really bothered me. My obligation is to the Dallas Mavericks. It's what's the best interest of the Dallas Mavericks. That's the most important thing. Some of those decisions are going to be unpopular to Dirk and maybe to the fans. But my obligation is to the Dallas Mavericks. Pete, as a lifelong Mavs fan who got off the train, if your obligation is to the Dallas Mavericks, it is also to Dirk, and it is also to the fans.
Yeah.
Because that is a team that has had the most loyal, diehard fans. I mean, they are right behind the Cowboys in Dallas in terms of people show out for the Mavs.
Dude, Mavs games were awesome to go to.
Dirk, people know what Dirk is in NBA history. If you weren't in Texas or in Dallas while he was playing, you don't understand.
Yeah.
The fact that he was a 20-year guy for that franchise that beat the Heatles and got the ring.
Yeah.
You go against Dirk, bro, you've lost every Dallas Mavs fan. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. So, yeah, I think he is totally living in a different world.
I remember Mark Stein being on the Bill Simmons podcast. This is when it was strictly audio and before Bill was at the Ringer and before he had started that Grantland. Mark Stein said, in a city where the Cowboys, are playing well, they were playing well at the time, Dirk has been the most popular athlete for like a decade, you know?
Yeah, longer than that by the time he retired. Yeah.
All right, we got to go. We're presented by Slovakics. We got way too carried away, but
that was fun.
I feel like it was worth it. The Cam Show's coming up after me. Go to the Cam Show. I'm going to do the first segment, which is why we got to leave right now. We're presented by Slovakics. We'll see you next Monday. More NFL draft coming your way. The Pete Sousa Show, again, presented by Slovakics. We'll see you next week.
Happy Easter, everybody.
That's right.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
Sports.
We are Rogue Media Sports.